Well, I finally found time to watch the final Crisis on Infinite Earths for the Tomorrowverse animated universe. It was very short-lived, more than likely, and I don't think there's any doubt, because of the recent shakeup over for DC properties as far as film and television. So when James Gunn comes in and he announced the plan is to have it all connected so that even animated projects would be connected to the live action films and TV shows. So that meant they had just started this thing. So, well, that's all got to go. And it was a reboot of the previous one, simply called the DC animated universe. And that ended with the Darkseid War and Constantine working with the Flash to change everything, which sets up this one, and it's where it ends as well. So in that aspect, it's well, you got a nice little bow on the end, but ultimately I didn't really care for this film very much, and I didn't like a lot of the choices they made. I understood them, and Crisis on Infinite Earths was a cool series. I just didn't like its outcome. I think it caused a lot of damage for DC in the long run, but encapsulated unto itself, it's a cool 12-issue series, and they don't really capture it here. Not for the least of which is that the Tomorrowverse is so short-lived. There's only a handful of films they got to do, and so you're not really invested in this iteration of them, even though you recognize them as Superman, Batman, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman, and all that. But they were off in doing either adaptations of stories, like with Batman, which was one of the good ones. That's basically all it was the animated version of the Long Halloween. And that's fine. The Man of Tomorrow one with Superman was okay. The Justice Society one they did was really good, which had the Flash time traveling and finding himself in an alternate world and all that sort of stuff. And the Supergirl one was pretty good with the Legion of Superheroes. It surprised me. I wasn't expecting much, but I did enjoy that one. The Green Lantern one wasn't any good. I'm already forgetting there was another one. See? But nevertheless, War World. Yeah, War World. Yeah, that wasn't that great. But and then you get to that one, and then boop. Okay, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Let's wrap this up. So it didn't quite land. And so they did nods to the original story, but it's only 3 films. That wouldn't have been enough to capture everything. But there really was no way to do it that I could see, because they hadn't really established this iteration of the characters before they end it all, albeit forced. But well, there it is. And other things I thought, well, you could have had the gimmick of their previous animated versions of the DC superheroes, which goes decades back, and none of that happened until this film, and it's very brief, and it's ultimately just a throwaway. I mean, it really, and you get one line from Batman the Animated Series with Kevin Conroy one more time as Batman, and that's okay. It's great because sadly he passed away, but they're just there, and you're watching their world get destroyed. So the Justice League and Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series, all that ceases to exist. It's been wiped out. It's not a great thing. The Super Friends, they do go to the Super Friends. Well, they get wiped out. So all that is gone. And but it's all very brief, so it's not like you got to see the current iteration interact with any of them and stuff. That kind of thing would have been cool. And maybe they had wanted to do something of that nature, should they've had a few more years to produce more projects and then get to this one. But it just didn't happen. So ultimately, one of the other, I guess, editorial decisions or what have you, but it all was to combine Supergirl's story with the Harbinger character from the original Crisis story. So there is no Harbinger, it's just Supergirl. But for the main reason is to give her a motivation for her sacrifice. So they recreate the idea that she sacrificed herself. In the original story, she rushes in to save Superman because he's about to be killed at the hands of the Anti-Monitor. And then ultimately, she's the one who ends up dying at the end of that story. Here, it was they needed to attack the Anti-Monitor with light. So she had to absorb the power of the sun. They didn't think Superman was already weakened or what have you. I'm already forgetting as to why, but Supergirl did it, and she hits the Anti-Monitor. And it works. He's done, except he's not the only one. There's more, because they realize, oh, the Anti-Monitor's not like in the comic book. The Anti-Monitor is a response to the creation of the multiverse. And what happened? How did the multiverse come about? Which, again, doesn't make sense when they show the other versions of these heroes. So there always was a multiverse. But nevertheless, it's because John Constantine and the Flash destroyed Darkseid in the previous universe. So, the Flash takes off running and recreates the world as he did in Flashpoint in that iteration, which was another reboot. See, this keeps happening. And so the Flash, they didn't have a Flash this time around, at least not Barry Allen. And so he does that, but Constantine put a spell so that what he did was go back in time to Apocalypse when Darkseid was an infant. And just his very presence was killing everybody in Apocalypse. And so I guess he had a magic virus on him or something. And so baby Darkseid dies. As a result, the Darkseid War never took place, but also Darkseid is such a significant entity on the universe that this changed things dramatically. Why would it create multiverses and stuff? I think would be the argument there already was. But without him, it created the problem, and as a result, the cosmos deems the multiverse sick, so anti-monitors are created. I don't know, to wipe it out. So there's tons of anti-monitors showing up, and so Supergirl basically sacrificed herself for nothing. So they realize they got to undo it, and then they suddenly, hey, the Legion of Superheroes has the Dream Machine. This is also another nod to not Crisis on Infinite Earths, but Grant Morrison's Final Crisis, to where the Legion of Superheroes took Superman to see this dream machine that they had locked away because it's so powerful you can do anything with it. It's basically the power of God. And all they needed was for Superman to just look at it, because Superman has a photographic memory. So he goes back and he's able to recreate the machine to defeat Darkseid's victory in that story. So they bring this into this film, and that's what they ultimately use. It solidifies the multiverse into one universe, which was the outcome of the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, which, if you're going to the theory of a multiverse, I don't think it's possible to just wipe it out and make it one world. So each one decides to step off of the Monitor ship or wherever they are. I think they're on what's left of War World at that point. But anyway, each one, and they zip out to this new Earth. And even though there were multiple copies of them, well, there was really only just two Supermen, and they were all going to be fused into one Superman on this world. And that they said, well, that's a good way to go, and so they do. And then the Spectre shows up and takes John Constantine off to, I don't know, heaven or whatever. So anyway, just, okay, that's how they wrap that up, but it wasn't that good. And I mean, like there was no interaction with previous iterations of, which is how you would apply that to it to match up what the original story was. And it didn't happen that way, which is unfortunate. And I mean, I don't know what their original plans were. I would assume had these sold well or got the views, they would have continued on. But the new initiative of revamping all of this, should that work, they'll have others. But I guess that's what there's no room for that, even though you could have Elseworlds it or what have you, which goes to show that they didn't really destroy the multiverse because, So anyway, there it is. For completist purposes, finished it up. But that's it for Tomorrowverse, which doesn't have a tomorrow because it's over.